Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Green again, and this is another in my recordings of Algebra 2. We are continuing to work our way through Unit 5. We have made it up to the concept of solving polynomial functions. We're going to use a basic principle, the zero product property that you probably learned in early elementary school, that says when you multiply something times 0, you always get 0. And we're going to use that to help us solve some polynomials. Now, first step in solving polynomials is factoring. That's why we were doing factoring. Now that you've learned all the types of factoring, you just need to remember how to use them. Whenever you says to factor, you must factor it completely. Break it down to its smallest factors. So let's review a couple of things here real quickly. The first thing you're going to look for, greatest common factors. Get them out of the equation. Then you're going to count the number of terms. If you see 4 terms, group them together and factor it. If you want to come up with the 4 terms, you can use the mama method and put that up here too. It will work. If you see 3 terms, you can look for the perfect square trinomial if you want to, or try the mama method. If there's only 2 terms, look and see if it's a difference of squares or a sum and difference of cubes. Sometimes it could be both. If you have any factors that still have an exponent of 2 or more, look to see if there's not another factor. See if you couldn't factor it again, because it might be breakdownable further. Could break it down even further. So we're going to talk about solving equations by factoring. First thing we're going to do, we know that equation must be solved for the unknown. Up until now, all we've ever done is solve equations with a degree of 1. And you might have done some degree of 2's to get the square roots of some sides, but for the most part, it's been simple equations with degree of 1. And when you did that, you would look at this and say, oh, I'm going to subtract the 4x from both sides of this equation, keeping my equation balanced. And it's going to give me negative 2x on this side plus the 8 equals 6. And you're going to subtract the 8 from both sides of this equation and get minus 2x equals to negative 2. And you're going to divide by negative 2, and you're going to get that x is equal to 1. That's a pretty simple process of going through and solving degrees of 1 when they have a degree of 1. But if they have a higher degree than that, we have to use a different technique. That technique involves factoring. It has to be completely factored. Okay? You must get everything on one side of the equation before you can try any factoring at all. Okay? You must get a 0 on one side. You must then factor it. Okay? Once you have a 0 on the side, you use all your factoring rules to make 2 or more factors. And then what are you going to do? Well, everything equals 0. So we can say once I factor it, then either the x or the x plus the 12 in this situation has to be 0. Why? Because I've got a 0 as my product. So I'm going to set x equal to 0. I'm going to set x plus 12 equal to 0. Subtract the 12 on both sides, and I get that x, well, it was either 0 or it was negative 12. So I actually have 2 answers here. X equals 0 and x equals negative 12. Those are the 2 answers to this problem, to this particular problem right here. Okay? So let's look at some more of these. Here I've got x squared minus 3x is equal to 10. I've got to have it equal to 0. So the first thing I'm going to do is say x squared minus 3x minus 10 equals 0. Well, you know what? I don't see any common factors there. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to use my mama table, and I'm going to say MA. Okay, so to multiply to get a negative 10, it's going to be a negative 2 times 5. And that's going to add together to give me a positive 3. Nope, I need a negative 3. So negative 5 times 2, and that's going to give me a negative 3. That's going to be what I'm going to break my equation down into. So it's going to be x minus 5, x squared minus 5x plus 3x, plus 2x minus 10 equals 0. and I'm going to group these two together, and I'm going to group these two together. And what am I going to get? I'm going to get an x over here, x minus 5, and I'm going to get a plus 2, and an x minus 5 equals 0. And when I factor this, I'm going to get an x plus 2 and an x minus 5. I've got two terms equal to 0. So that means that either x plus 2 equals 0, in which case x is equal to a negative 2, or x minus 5 equals 0, in which case that would be x is equal to a 5. Ooh. Well, let's try these. X minus 2. Minus 2 squared is a 4. 4 minus negative 2 times negative 3 gives me a negative 6. 4 plus 6 is a 10. Yeah, that checked. Okay, I buy that one. Stick a 5 in there. 5 squared, 25 minus negative 3 times 5 is 15. So 25 plus negative 15 gives me a 10. Check. I checked them both. They both are the correct answers. Doo-doo. I'd circle that. This one, same thing. X squared plus 7x. I got to get that 12 over here, so I'm going to add 12 to both sides. Equals 0. Now I'm going to look at my mama tree. I got a mama. Okay? I'm going to eliminate 12 and 1 because I know that's not going to work. Everything's got to be positive. So it's going to be 2 times 6. Well, that adds up to 8. Nope, not going to be what I want. 3 times 4, that's 12. And 3 plus 4 is 7. That's the one I want right there. Okay? So I'm going to have x squared plus 3x plus 4x plus 7 equals 0. Grouping the first and the last. And I'll pull out an x out of this one. I'll get x plus 3. And I'll pull out a wow. Did I really just do that? Okay, let's see here. X squared plus 3x, that gives me an x plus 3. And over here, I got a 4 and a 7. Those don't factor very well, do they? That's 12. Hmm. Oh, I see what I did wrong there. Write the problem down wrong, Mr. Green. It's not a 7. It's a 12. See what it is? It was a 12 here, so I just need to put the 12 there. So that becomes plus, I'm going to pull out a 4 out of that one, and I'll get an x plus 3. And so, and all this is equal to 0. And so what I've got x plus 4 is one of them, and x plus 3 is my other one, is equal to 0. And that means that x plus 4 equals 0, or x equals negative 4, or x plus 3 equals 0, and that'd be x equals negative 3. You can check those if you wish. Those will be the right answers. Negative 4 squared is 16. 16 minus 28 gives me a negative 12. Okay? Negative 3 squared is a 9. 9 plus 21 equals negative 12. Check, check. Cool. Okay? So you're seeing how it works here. Let's continue to do a few more of them. Okay. I've got a 2 here. So when I write my mama table in this situation, it's multiplying out to an 8, and it has to add to a 6, right? So that's 2 times 4. That adds to 6, right? But it has to add to negative 6. Oh, wait a second. That's going to be negative 2 times negative 4, and that'll add to a negative 6. 6. Okay? Well, that means I'm going to have 2x squared minus 2x plus, parentheses, around here, I'm going to have minus 4x plus 4. Alright? Well, I pull out the 2x here, and that'll leave me with an x minus 1. And I pull out the negative 4 here, and I'll get an x minus 1. Okay, that leaves me with 2x minus 4 and x minus 1. And these are all equal to 0. I left that off. Okay, so that means that 2x minus 4 equals 0, or 2x equals 4, or x equals 2. Or over here, x minus 1 equals 0, x equals 1. Let's stick these in. 2 squared is 4 times 2 is 8, minus 6 times 2 is 12, plus 4. 8 minus 12 is negative 4, plus 4 is equal to 0. Stick a 1 in there. 2 minus 6 plus 4. 2 minus 6 is minus 4, plus 4 is 0. Check, check. Those are my answers. Okay? Looking at this one side's got to be 0. I'm going to choose to move everything that way because I've got a cubed over here, and that's going to help me. So x cubed minus 6x squared minus 16x equals 0. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see that they all have an x in them. So I'm going to pull out that x to begin with, and I'm going to get x squared minus 6x minus 16 equals 0. So now I'm going to look at this. Terms that multiply to give me negative 16 and add to give me a negative 6. Right? So I've got a negative 16. That's going to be a negative 4 times 4. Negative 4. Or negative 4 times 4. That gives me 0. Won't be that. Negative 8 times 2. That's a negative 6. There's my numbers. Negative 8 and 2. Okay? So I'm going to have x times x squared minus 8x, parenthesis, another set of parentheses here, plus quantity 2x minus 16, parenthesis, parenthesis, equals 0. Okay, well that's x times, well I can pull out an x out of all those, and I'll get an x minus 8 plus, parenthesis, well I can pull a 2 out of that, and I'll get an x minus 8 equals 0. Another set of parentheses there. And then I can take, and I'll get an x times an x times a, oops, an x times an x. Go away, parenthesis, thank you. And x times a x plus 2 times an x minus 8 equals 0. I've got 3 terms this time. X equals 0, x equals negative 2, and x equals 8. Plug them in, see what you get. It'll check out. Okay? Remember, sending me the course name helps a lot. Helps me identify who you are when you got questions, and it helps me give you quicker answers. Okay? If you have any problems solving these problems, bring them to Toga. Love to help you there. Okay? Look forward to talking to you next time.